Did you hear what just happened? Trump is absolutely furious. He's blasting the judge in the James Comey case, claiming the whole thing is totally rigged. Yeah. He says the same folks who chased him for years are now getting a free pass. And get this, while that drama unfolds, a bombshell just dropped in California. 5 top officials connected to Governor Gavin Newsom, including his former chief of staff, have been arrested in a massive corruption scandal. We're talking luxury trips, shady contracts, and laundered money. 2 huge scandals, right? One about justice being bent, the other about power being abused. But what if these stories are more connected than they seem? Think about it. On one side, you have a judge overseeing the James Comey case. Yes, that Comey, who was at the heart of investigations into Trump for years. Now, this judge is facing questions about whether the process itself was crooked. On the other side, California's powerful governor, Gavin Newsom, is watching his closest team get busted for old-school corruption. Wire fraud, money laundering, backdated contracts. It's like something out of a movie. So what's the real link here? It's not about geography or even party lines. It's about accountability. It's about who plays by the rules and who gets a pass. Let's dig into Trump's outrage first, because honestly, whether you love him or not, his point hits home for a lot of people. Remember James Comey, the former FBI director who launched investigations into Trump, the guy who became a central figure in years of political battles? Well, he's now facing charges himself, but instead of a straightforward prosecution, things have gotten messy. Defense lawyers are crying foul, claiming government evidence might be tainted. There are whispers an FBI agent might have improperly accessed Comey's legal team's communications. And then there's the grand jury. This is where it gets really wild. Reports say when prosecutors first presented their case, the grand jury actually declined to indict Comey. They said no bill, but the prosecutor didn't take no for an answer. She reportedly kept those jurors there for hours, reframing arguments, until finally, by just 2 votes, an indictment was secured. Now, is that technically illegal? Maybe not. But does it feel like justice? Or does it look like someone was determined to get a specific outcome, no matter what? And seriously, do you think Trump would have gotten that kind of relentless push if the roles were reversed? For Trump and his supporters, this is déjà vu. They've seen this pattern before, aggressive tactics against Trump, but kid-glove treatment for others. Imagine being under investigation for years, watching your friends get prosecuted, your reputation dragged through the mud, then seeing the very people who led those investigations get what looks like a gentle ride. That's what's fueling this anger. It's not just about Comey, it's about the idea that there's a protected class in Washington, people who can bend the rules, so leak info, even weaponize their positions, and never truly face consequences. Yeah. But wait, Trump's anger might be pointing to an even bigger picture. While Washington debates fairness, California just gave us a shocking reminder of unchecked power. Governor Gavin Newsom was recently abroad, taking shots at the Trump administration, calling it the most corrupt in American history. Strong words, right? Except, get this, while Newsom was lecturing from a beach in South America, federal agents were arresting 5 people closely tied to his administration. Back home, we're talking arson, criminal charges, wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering, the works. This wasn't some minor ethics hiccup. This was old school, brass knuckle corruption. Allegedly, they were siphoning money from dormant political accounts into personal luxuries, then creating fake, backdated contracts to cover their tracks. The irony is just perfect, isn't it? The governor calls someone else corrupt while his own house is crumbling. Now, Newsom himself hasn't been charged, and his office quickly issued a standard damage control statement. But the optics? Devastating. Prosecutors allege Dana Williamson, Newsom's former chief of staff, helped orchestrate a scheme to divert around Arbag, linked from an active political fund, money that went toward private jets, luxury hotels, designer bags, all disguised as business expenses. They even allegedly set up a money laundering scheme and created no-show jobs. This is the kind of corruption you read about in history books happening right now. in the nation's most populous state. And here's where these two seemingly separate stories, the Comey case and the Newsom arrests, start to connect. In both situations, you have people who presented themselves as beacons of integrity only to find themselves entangled in serious allegations. And in both situations, you see a system that seems to apply different standards depending on who you are. Comey, the Boy Scout of Washington, now faces questions about preferential treatment. Williamson worked for a governor who constantly preaches ethics, yet she's accused of running a corruption ring right under his nose. The response from Newsom's office? Carefully worded statements. No outrage, just political survival mode. This is what drives people crazy. This is what Trump taps into when he talks about a rigged system. It's not that corruption never gets prosecuted, as the California arrests show. It's that the process feels selective, inconsistent, shaped more by politics than by blind justice. When someone useful to the establishment runs into trouble, the system seems to find ways to slow-walk consequences. But when someone seen as a threat faces scrutiny, the system moves with startling speed and severity. Think about it. Remember when scandals actually ended careers? When officials would step down in disgrace? What happened to that? We've been sliding into a culture where survival is the only goal, and every scandal becomes just another political battle. This isn't a left versus right issue. It's an elite versus everyone else issue. It's about the people who make the rules actually consider themselves bound by those same rules. And when you look closely, this double standard isn't just accidental, it's built right in. The people running these investigations, the judges, they're often part of the same professional and social networks as the people they're supposed to hold accountable. They're the Cochrane conferences. They went to the same schools, attend the same conferences, share the same assumptions about who deserves the benefit of the doubt. Trump, for all his flaws, resonates because he's an outsider. He was never part of the club. And because of that, he got treated differently. The intense scrutiny, the willingness of institutions to pursue every angle, the leaks to the media, none of that was normal. It was the system defending itself. And now, as that system turns its attention to figures like Comey, who were part of that defense, you see a noticeable difference in treatment, the gentle handling, the procedural concerns, the willingness to entertain technical challenges that would never fly in cases against political outsiders. Now, you might be asking, if the system is so protective of its own, how did those California arrests even happen? That's a fair question, and the answer tells us something important. They happened because the investigation started years ago, before the current political landscape fully formed. And critically, some prosecutors and investigators still take their oath seriously, regardless of politics. They saw evidence of wrongdoing, and they pursued it. That's how the system is supposed to work. But the fact that it feels so remarkable, the fact that we're almost surprised when powerful people face real consequences, tells you how far things have drifted. There are still people inside the Department of Justice, inside federal law enforcement, who believe in doing their jobs without calculating political fallout. But those people are increasingly uncomfortable, increasingly outnumbered. We've seen reports of career prosecutors resigning rather than participate in what they consider politicized investigations. Even judges appointed for life to be insulated from political pressure are reportedly stepping down because they see the corruption of their institutions. Thanks for watching.